So let's go right back into that story. Elizabeth Heverin received the ban after quoting the historic anthem prompted another student to complain. The Aberdeen University Students Association told her that quoting the 18th century piece could be viewed as potential discrimination. Right. Elizabeth Heverin is the student in question from Aberdeen University who joins us now. Elizabeth, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure. When you read this story, you kind of, certainly when I read it, I think I probably speak for a lot of people, you read it and think, well, there's clearly something, I've read this all wrong. This can't be true. But as I understand it, this is absolutely what's happened, right?
Yeah, it's what happened. I was in a debate debating the military. There was basically a military ban at our university stopping the British Army from advertising at freshers, and
Right.
I think another student who was from Canada and was half Korean said that the British Army actually helped his family in Korea. So he was the first to comment Rule Britannia. So I thought, I might as well follow on to it and say it as well. But they only reported me, sadly, which
Right.
is quite ridiculous.
So first, I mean, we could have the debate about the British military being on campus another time, but obviously this was in a kind of sort of careers-based capacity. Is that why they were there?
Yeah. It was
So
for the University Officer Corps, which is why they were
all
advertising.
right. But some students took a kind of a sort of an anti-military stance. Would that be fair? And they didn't want them there.
Yeah, they argued that the British military would make international students feel uncomfortable, despite none of the students actually coming from any previously
Yeah.
occupied countries by Britain.
Yeah, and nobody ever complaining that they were uncomfortable as well, which is usually the case in these kind of stories. So how did it come around then that the words Rule Britannia, was this something you said or something you wrote?
It's something I wrote in the chat, which they took out of context and reported me for discrimination for.
Was this in a WhatsApp chat?
Yeah, it was in the Microsoft Teams call.
All right, it's in a Teams thing. Okay, so suddenly in the midst of what you're all having a discussion about what a variety of things or about specifically this military issue?
Yeah, it was specifically the military issue.
Okay, and you just suddenly put on there Rule Britannia. Did you put an exclamation mark? Because that might be important.
I don't think so. I think I just said Rule Britannia because it was in reply to like people spamming it.
So people were losing their marbles on this and getting annoyed, and you wrote Rule Britannia sort of on the back of that. Was that about right?
I think we said Rule Britannia just after the basically the military ban got overturned, so the military's allowed back on campus now. So
Right.
we decided to celebrate by saying Rule Britannia in the comments.
Yes, and I don't think anybody would deem it particularly controversial that the military were on campus, and that happens at lots of universities. And as you rightly say, Elizabeth, nobody could find any evidence as to any harm they'd caused in either this year or in the past. So you write Rule Britannia on the chat, and then somebody absolutely loses the plot over this. What happened next?
Well, a month later, so this is like
Wow.
ages since the incident happened, I get like an email saying that there's an investigation into my remarks Rule Britannia, and another remark saying if you don't like the British military, I don't understand why you came to a British university if it makes you feel so uncomfortable, because I could imagine personally studying in a country which maybe committed atrocities here. And yeah, so there was an investigation into that. Then a month later, without an interview, without them talking to me or the context, they decided to basically ban me from the student union for 2 weeks.
Right. And their basis was that. Well, what would tell me what they said in their in their email to you?
Let me just get it up. Sorry.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this was worded to you.
I think they said that we don't know if the Rule Britannia remarks are discrimination, but then later in the email they followed up and said we're going to place these sanctions on you, which are there to safeguard students away from discrimination because of your Rule Britannia remarks.
Right, and interestingly, at a university, what one is encouraged to analyse and deconstruct and all those things you're meant to do when having conversations, and conversations and debates are not always comfortable, although this is so non-controversial, it's actually laughable. None of the usual things that you might think would happen at a place of education happened. Somebody just simply banned you without any analysis or recall on your part.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And, you know, I don't blame the university at all. This is entirely the fault of the student union, which is obviously tends to be quite left-wing.
Yeah.
Luckily, the email, I was in a meeting with them today, and they said that we're appealing the decision, and we're going to, you know, put guidelines in to make sure this doesn't happen to any of the students in the future. Which
right.
is
The university we're going to appeal it
to
the union.
Yeah, so luckily, you know, it's getting solved.
Yeah.
I just, you know, want to make sure this doesn't happen to any of the students.
Well, indeed. I mean, because on one half of us could just laugh at this, of course, and go, "This is so ridiculous." There's not you could walk around every high street with a big clipboard and ask every member of the public, "Is there anything offensive about this?" And not a single person will say yes. But for some reason, a small group in the student union decreed your words, Rule Britannia, as being potentially discriminating against students, none of whom had complained either. So they'd made this curious autonomous decision. So it could be laughable, but it's also, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, you can tell us, but there's something rather disturbing about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I wasn't really shocked when I got the email. Like, you know, I've had stories of this happening to students in the past. But, you know, I felt like it was important for me personally to go to the press with it, because there's been other incidences on our campus, such as our pro-life society getting banned. One friend of mine called Derek, he got kicked out of his debating society for a month for saying that gender studies was a waste of taxpayers' money. So it's happened on, you know.
Yeah. Well, he's not allowed that opinion?
Apparently not.
And being pro-life is apparently controversial, is that right?
Yeah. We had, I think the Pro-Life Society had to get a lawsuit to force the student union to recognise it as a society.
Wow. Which is extraordinary that I mean, you can't think of anything less controversial than being pro-life, really. I mean, that doesn't really need explanation. Not being pro-life, one could say, is controversial and worth more of a discussion. But either way, there's room for both, surely.
Yeah.
So this is university life 21st century style. Did you expect this?
Yeah. To be honest, I did expect it. You know, it's to be expected with universities. I think the government passed a law forcing English universities to accept freedom of speech. However, obviously, since Scotland isn't under England,
no,
the laws don't apply to them.
Well, in fact, you're in a worse position than ever, really, because I don't know if you're aware of Scotland's new hate crime bill. I'm not sure whether it's fully in action yet, but it would be more likely to defend the union than you, because it seems that the hate crime bill could be interpreted in all manner of ways. And I think one of those ways is that if somebody feels as if someone has stirred up some kind of hatred, then there could be a case against you. So you might find yourself doing like 20 years in one of Nicola Sturgeon's prisons, Elizabeth.
Probably for saying Rule Britannia.
Yeah, it's outrageous, isn't it? You can use this platform now if you want to apologise to the union, but I've got a feeling you shouldn't and don't need to. Did you attempt to email them and say, "Are you serious?"
Yeah. So a friend of mine emailed on my behalf and said, "You haven't followed any of the procedures," because they're supposed to interview me to get like the context behind the quote.
Gotcha.
So, you know, they accepted that they dealt with it badly. And luckily, you know, there is guidelines in the place now to protect like freedom of speech.
But why would there even be a procedure for somebody writing Rule Britannia? I mean, this is bonkers.
Exactly.
I mean, absolutely bonkers. So when you return to the union, so you are back now in the union. Is your 2-week ban served, or are you still?
Yes, it's completely appealed now.
Right. Have you seen any of the faces that banned you? Have you actually?
No, I don't even know who banned me. That's the thing.
So you don't know who it is. So it's an anonymous, shady character.
Yeah.
Wow. That makes it even more interesting. There's a whole game of Cluedo to be had there in Aberdeen. Elizabeth, thank you for sharing this with us, and happy to platform you to share the incredulity of this absolutely crazy decision. And we appreciate your time, Elizabeth Heverin, who's the banned, she's not banned any longer, the banned Aberdeen University student. She was banned from the student union for writing the words Rule Britannia in a WhatsApp chat because somebody might find it offensive. It could be seen as some sort of potential discriminatory, was the words. I don't even know where to begin to answer that. We bring you these stories on Talk Radio, and each time we see one, we think this has got a 3 o'clock chat on the afternoon show written all over it. But there's never going to be another one like this. I mean, it was only earlier in the week we did the Black Boy Lane story, wasn't it? But there was at least there was some semblance of debate on that. There is no debate. And every time you see one, you think there can't be another one. People are not this stupid, are they? It cannot be possible that another human being from the same gene pool could possibly conclude at any level that there is anything offensive in what was done. Somebody could only desire to think it's offensive, and there's your problem. People who exist in a constant state, a constant hyperventilating state of adamant incredulity at what other people might think or say and why it might be offensive to other people. Interesting, not always offensive to them, but to other people. In this case, the words Rule Britannia. Man alive.